Hey everyone, excited to be here with Allison today. Allison is a medical writer and she has significant experience in the medical writing industry and a number of certifications that I saw too, and has extensive knowledge on just becoming a great professional here. Allison, can you give us a little bit of background about who you are and what you do?
Sure. I'm actually a critical care registered nurse first and foremost. So that's where I got my medical background, with a lot of clinical experience in the intensive care unit, working with patients, doctors, other healthcare professionals. So that gave me a pretty big boost when it came to medical writing. And then when I decided to start transitioning, I am freelance and I did freelance writing kind of as a side hustle for quite some time, knowing that eventually I wanted to transition to that being my full-time gig. So I was able to do that just recently. Felt like I was making enough money to make that transition and feel comfortable doing it. So that's kind of where I come from as far as writing goes. My first bachelor's degree was actually in English, so I had a lot of foundational writing skills, just as far as spelling and grammar and structure, that kind of thing. So I had never written professionally in any other way, but it does definitely help having that basic knowledge of grammar and spelling and structure.
And for many of the people watching today and listening, what they're thinking about is how much experience do I need within the medical writing field to jump into medical writing? Many of them are working as English teachers, or they went through a similar career path that you went through and they got their degree in English. And they're like, wow, this medical writing field seems really interesting, but they have maybe a little bit of imposter syndrome and they want
Mm,
to go and get that other experience first before merging the two. And I know medical writing is a big industry to say the least.
yeah.
What would you say to those people?
I would say you're always going to have imposter syndrome no matter what you're doing. And sometimes the best thing to do is start doing what you want to do and keep learning while you're making the steps to get where you want to go. So if you keep telling yourself, I don't know enough, I need to know more, you'll never get yourself started to where you want to go. So it's definitely understandable. Medical writing. So I'll just start from my perspective. When I first decided that that's what I wanted to do, I thought I didn't have enough experience just as a nurse. I thought, oh my gosh, I have to have a PhD, or I need to be a physician to be able to do the type of writing that is needed for that. But that's actually not true at all. And the more I started to research and see who was doing it, I realized that I probably had more knowledge and experience to be able to do it than a lot of people that were. So I think that, like I said, that basic knowledge of how to write, and the medical writing industry is huge. So I am not at all um, qualified, I would say, to go into regulatory writing. I could probably learn how to do it, but it's extremely technical and there's a lot of things to learn about it. So if I wanted to do it, I'm sure I could learn how to do it. Um, and there's tons of other aspects of medical writing, like continuing medical education. That is definitely something. You don't necessarily need to know anything about medicine itself, but you have to learn how to figure out, what people need. What do people need to learn? Where are the gaps? And how do I start to form a needs assessment and form that, you know, medical education? So I would say my my advice is, if you want to do it, get started doing it, and then you can learn what you need to learn.
And, going off of that point, can you walk us through how you got your first, I guess, medical writing client? And since you said, working mostly as freelance and what that looked like, I think for a number of people, they're still stuck in the mindset of, okay, there's job boards, there's this and that. And how is that process of finding a client and also finding more clients? What does that look like? And what are the things that you think don't work and do work?
So I think job boards, as far as writing goes, they can be very, number one, difficult to get the job because there's so many people that are applying for it, but also a lot of them don't pay that well and they tend to be underpaid. So my very first freelance medical writing job that I got, I actually was looking through a job board, and I think it was either ZipRecruiter or Indeed, and going through, and it was for a subject matter expert, not necessarily writing, but it was a subject matter expert for patient care or something like that. So I applied to it thinking, well, maybe this can be like a consultancy thing and lead to something else. So um, when the CEO got back to me, she said, well, with your writing experience, you could probably write our scripts, because what they did was, it was a company that made patient education videos for hospitals. So they would take a specific problem, like say a wound, and do an entire video for patient education, and then they give that to them in the hospital to help them understand how to take care of it and understand the whole process behind it. So that's what I started doing, and that was my first experience. I had no idea whatsoever how to write a video script, none at all. And I was very honest. I said, I don't know how to do it, but I'm sure that I can learn how to do it. So, and they were great. I mean, it's a fairly big company, and um, the person who was the head of the video script writers, he got on a Zoom call with me and walked me through, okay, this is where this is supposed to be, and this is how we do it. And everything that you do is going to be a learning curve. It's just a matter of um, you have to be you have to be ready to learn it, and just understand that you're not going to be perfect, but as long as you're asking questions. I think that's one of the big things that people worry about, is that if they ask questions, that they're going to the person they're asking them to is going to think they don't know anything. Well, you only know what you know, and people expect you to ask questions, and that's the best thing you can do. So, and as far as getting more jobs, I think the best place you can be is on LinkedIn, because I would say the majority, probably 90% of the work that I get is through people actually reaching out to me through LinkedIn. So if you learn how to optimize your profile with the right keywords, then the right people will find you, and you'll get work that way.
And I know for many of those watching, they come from a background in academia where LinkedIn is not something that they necessarily focus on.
Mhm.
And we really try to emphasize that.
Yeah.
That is such a big platform for job opportunities. So, thank you for bringing that up. And I'd love to dive into some of the key success traits that you feel like has given you consistent, I would say, success within your industry and enabled longevity there. So things that may be like principles or habits, routines that you feel really contribute to that.
Well, I think, handling deadlines is a big thing. So um, there's when you start to get a lot of clients, especially, if you're freelance, if you have a lot of different clients, you really have to start to organize it, because there's only so much you can keep in your head as far as when things need to be done. And, they'll send work back that needs edits. And so I started a spreadsheet so I know what I have. Is it, um, have I started it? Is it in the process? Is it finished? And when does it need to be? When is the deadline? And then I also have another part, say if it's paid per word, how many words is it, or how many hours did it take, and has it been paid and has it not been paid? So having that spreadsheet and that organization is really important as far as you know getting your work done on time. And as far as habits go, when you work for yourself, you have to, have some motivation. Otherwise, you won't get anything done. So, so I do try to get up at the same time every day and kind of get in the habit. I go for a walk first, and then I, you know, just kind of schedule out my day. So it's that's definitely something you need to have, the self discipline, if you're going to do it on your own, for sure.
And now going into another subject, which is, there are things that make you successful, but there are also things that help you overcome challenges. Can you talk about some of the challenges that you face, whether on the job, and maybe it's working with deadlines and working with your peers and people who you have to submit drafts to, and how you overcome those challenges?
Well, I would say, there's a lot of different types of writing that I do. And, I think I said I didn't really have any real experience doing it. So, a challenge to me a lot of times is learning on the fly, because you do have to be kind of quick about, say, learning a brand. You have to know where to go to find out and understand about that company that you need to write about, or where do you go to get sources to write something. And I think that's been a little bit of a challenge for me, as far as I would say communication is a big thing for me, because you do have to kind of get out of your comfort zone as far as that goes, and not be afraid to reach out to people that, I talk to a lot of scientists, that you have to overcome. I guess it's imposter syndrome again. You have to overcome that feeling that I don't know what I'm doing. So, you know, but you actually do know what you're doing, but because of that imposter syndrome, you feel like you don't. So I think that um, challenges for me are, communication, getting in touch with the people I need to get in touch with, and feeling good about it. Networking was a challenge for me at first too, because I'm kind of a shy person and introverted, and I think a lot of writers will probably say the same thing, is that they're introverts. But just knowing that everybody's in the same boat as you and everybody's pretty supportive of each other is a good thing to know.
Yeah, that's really helpful. And how do you establish those peers that can help you out? Do you have mentors? Do you have people who you mentor? And what does that supportive network look like for you?
So that's, going back to LinkedIn again, it's a great place for networking. And when you're first getting started, it's always a good thing to, and people do it to me all the time, to reach out to other writers and ask them questions. Ask for a video, interview, so you can just ask them kind of what it's all about, and what do you need to get started, and what do you need, just kind of what we're doing now, except, you you message somebody and ask them for that interview. So I think LinkedIn is your best resource for all of that. I don't think you just don't get that on another social media platform like Facebook or Instagram, anything like that, when it's more of a business to business, you know, business to business resource that you're looking for.
Very true. And I know you mentioned earlier about video scripts that you had worked on with patient education. Are there any other projects that you can talk about or are allowed to talk about that you can bring up?
Well, there's a lot of, besides video scripts, if you start working with medical communications and even copywriting, when I first started this, didn't even know what copywriting was. You think copywriting is when you're trying to make something your own, but it's actually, for advertising, and that's a great skill to learn. So slide decks, that is a great skill to have, to be able to tell stories through slide decks or PowerPoints, and be able to put those together in a story and visually so that it's appealing and not confusing. That's a great thing to learn how to do. And just storytelling in general, depending on what type of writing you're going to be doing. There's so much content out there that writers are needed everywhere, because companies don't know how to write. People in companies don't know how to write. It's a skill. And knowing how to tell a story, understanding SEO is important too. A lot of companies now want to optimize to drive traffic to the websites. So you have to have that. AI obviously is something that you want to know too. So.
Do you use AI at all? I know like that was one of the questions I was talking to. I was someone who works at UCLA Health and the medical field, and they were talking to me about Chat GPT, and they're like, "Oh, how do I learn about this?" And I was like, "I don't know if this is, I should be telling you about this," and like all. Do you have any thoughts about it?
I do. So, first and foremost, I think there's a school of thought that it'll replace writers in general, but I can't see that ever happening, only because the human aspect of writing is something that can't be replaced. So as far as Chat GPT, I've used it to get kind of a general idea of a story idea. Like if I want to write something, I'll put into Chat GPT the general principle of the story and just get it, because it draws all that information off the internet. That's all it's doing, and just organizing it so you can kind of see what you have and how it's organized. But I've never ever used the actual text that it gives me in anything that I would write. It gives me ideas. There's another newer one. It's called Graphai.ai, and it's more geared towards medical writers. And it actually will go and tell you the sources that it uses, and give you subheadings and stuff like that. It's a lot more involved. I don't really use it that much, but it's always good to get kind of an idea of what's out there, and it's almost like a search engine to me.
That's super cool. Yeah, I'll find a link to that and put it in the description below this video. So for those watching, make sure to go ahead and check out that description, and you'll see a link to it. And I know we just touched upon this, but are there any other things that you can see with the future of medical writing changing. We have the chat GPT and graph.ai was something like
It's Graphi, Grafi .ai.
okay, graphi.ai. And any other things that come to your mind when you think of the future of the industry and how it's changing?
Well, I think that the future of medical writing is vast. And I think that it's projected to grow in the billions of dollars by 2030. And it's just because the medical field itself is just exploding. You have pharmaceuticals, you have medical devices, you've got education. The amount of education that providers, whether they're nurses or doctors, the amount of education that they need to consume is incredible. And that all has to be written by somebody, so, and then you just have a look at websites and blogs and news articles, and it's exploding, and I don't think it's going anywhere. And like I said, I don't think it's going to be replaced anytime soon by just simply, AI and a computer. You type something in and it just spits it out the way that they want it.
Yeah, that's going to take some time for sure. I think also, you have to have clarity on what you want to write and the end goal for the AI to have clarity. And I think
Yes.
people
Yeah.
don't have clarity on the end goal until they're like halfway through what they're writing.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly right.
Uh, um, and if you were, let's say, talking to somebody who is looking to hop into, let's say, your position today, they're like, I want to do what you're doing. I want to do this freelance writing, and I want to do it in these areas as well. What are some of the skill sets that would immediately stand out to you as like, you can do this?
Uh-oh. You
You're
froze on me.
am I back or here? Okay. Let's see.
Okay, you're
Okay.
back. Okay. Sorry.
Um, so what I'd mentioned was if you're looking to, let's say, not necessarily hire somebody, but someone who's looking to step into your shoes today, what are some of the immediate things that would stand out to you as having the ability to do that? So it could be like traits, tenacity, whatever that looks like.
Oh, yes. So soft skills are really big, and sometimes they're more important than anything else. Um, Resilience is a big thing because, you know, not everything you do is going to be perfect, and not everything you do is going to be something that somebody wants to pay you for, and you have to kind of be able to pick yourself up and say, well, that person doesn't like it, but somebody else will, or this is how I'm going to get better. And you've got to be a good communicator, I think, is really important. And to learn how to have confidence in yourself, even when you don't feel like you are confident, you know. Um, Obviously, the ability to write is important, and your students, I'm sure, they know how to write. Otherwise, they wouldn't be in a technical writing program. So I think that's a little bit besides the point. Got to be responsible, you know when your deadlines are and be able to meet them. I think that's um, a huge aspect of writing, and especially if you're going to be freelance, is you you have to make deadlines. You can't not make deadlines, one way or the other, and always plan ahead. And if you don't think you can do it, um, let let the client know well ahead of time. Um, I've had people offer me work and tell me what the deadline is, and I say I can't do it by then. There's no way I'll get it done. And then they'll say, Oh, that's okay. We'll take it a week after that, but always be upfront and communicate. I think that's all clients really want. And don't ever be afraid to ask questions. That's a really important thing to be able to do.
And I know we covered a lot here today. Is there anything that, I should have asked you, but I didn't ask you and you feel like you want to touch upon?
Um, I'm trying to think. I made some notes. Um, you know, I think one of the things, research, I think is a big thing. I think being able to like, you have to like research no matter what. I wouldn't get into this at all if you don't enjoy learning and researching things, because no matter how much you know about something, you're still going to have to research. And understanding how to reference what you write is another big thing, and having a good referencing software, that makes it quick and easy for you, so that you're not. I know when I was in nursing school, I was doing APA and going to the little booklet every time I had to make a reference. I don't do that anymore. I have something to put it into that, when I'm done, it just lists all my references in the right format. And so, yeah, so definitely referencing format. Research, I think, is huge also.
Well, thank you so much. Yeah, research is, I can't imagine how big of a part it is. It's pretty much
Yeah,
everything.
yeah, exactly.
And Allison, thank you so much for being here with us today. And if people want to connect with you, what is the best way to do that?
I think really the best way to do it is through LinkedIn. Send me a message, connect with me. I'm always happy to talk with anybody about getting started and how to do that. It's not that difficult to get started, but it is, like I said, you got to just do it and start believing in yourself that you can, and learn what you need to learn as you go, because that's all we're all doing, really.
Yeah, very true. Again, thank you so much for sharing your time with us today. And I hope you have a great rest of your day and we'll rock and roll from here.
Okay, thanks a lot.